Hoisting and dousing a spinnaker. So much easier when you have a spinnaker sleeve or sock or dowser or snuffer or whatever you want to call it. So I've watched the price of these go up dramatically over the years. Not that they were ever inexpensive, but I know this is something that I can make myself using mostly materials that I have on hand. So I've put together a kind of a plan of what I'm planning to do. I'll be following this more or less. There's some crude drawings on here. And the first thing I'm going to need is cloth for the body. So I have here 10 yards or 30 feet of 36 or 37 inch wide nylon ripstop taffeta. This is actually military surplus. And this is the second go around on this particular part of the project. First time I used a old spinnaker that I cut up into a long strip. And because spinnakers are curved and don't lay flat, it kind of came out twisted. It wasn't really working out well. So in addition to that, I'll need a stainless ring. This is hollow. Probably the only thing I actually spent money on so far. It was less than $10, I believe. Some 3/16 cord or line. I have a whole bunch here. Some random pieces of Dacron sailcloth. A pendant made from stainless wire that I just kind of crimped together. And I could have made a soft shackle out of nylon or something just as easily. A small block on a swivel. And a shackle to put it all together and hang from the halyard. And the only thing I'm missing here is just a piece of cloth to sew the ring into, and I'll kind of explain that as I get to that point. So I will go into as much detail as possible in a step-by-step manner. And this is my spinnaker. It is approximately 32 feet in length down the middle and 18 feet across the foot. It is a symmetrical spinnaker. However, I do have an ATN tacker that allows you to fly it the way you would an asymmetrical or a Jenniker. And for this project, I'm going to be using this walking foot sewing machine. This is the same as the original Sailrite. Was sold under a different name. The name is actually rubbed off here. It said Rex. And I did do a video on this sometime last year. But I'm not going to show myself sewing. That would kind of be just fluff. So I'm just going to show each step as I do it and proceed from there. So I've laid out the fabric, all 30 or so feet of it. Okay, first step is to sew on a collar of Dacron. This is the top. I'll be doing the same at the bottom with a more thin piece. And not all the way, because this is going to get folded over for the pocket for the control lines. So I'm going to stitch it here and then turn it over so that the seam is on the inside. And now that's been stitched on. And I'll just flip it over. So this will be the outside of the body. The seam will be hidden. And similarly, I did the same thing to the bottom with a thinner piece. I had to actually stitch two pieces together. I didn't have anything long enough, so I kind of staggered two pieces. And when you flip that, that kind of hides the seam, and this will be the outside. Okay, back at the top, before I move on to the next step, I need to fold this in half and sew it together so that it kind of gives it a bit more strength, because everything will be hanging from here from two grommets. Just like that, I folded it over and stitched it there, told it down, and also put a stitch across the top to give it a little bit more definition. Okay, next step will be to make a pocket for the control lines. Actually, it's going to be on this side, because this is the inside. And stitch it all the way down. Okay, got that pocket sewn. Just put the flap over and sewed it all the way. That took a while. I did use a little bit of two-sided tape, a little piece placed every foot or so. But one thing I forgot to do is to put a little piece of Dacron in here on this piece, and that's for the chafe from the cell, from the control lines. So I'll do that before I continue. Okay, got that little chafe protection sewed in there. I had to unstitch this. And this side is the top. Also with that chafe protection patch inside the sleeve. So the next step will be to close it up and just sew it together. And all sewn up, and I have the stitch going all the way down. To make this easier, with the pocket I used some two-sided tape. Over here I just used some staples every few feet just to make sure that the fabric was aligned. So all I have left now for this step is to join the collar on both ends. I have it overlapping a little bit intentionally so I can join them together, and then turn it inside out, and that would complete the body. All right, so I've got that collar joined here where it overlapped, and I turned it inside out so that the pocket's on the inside and all the seams are on the inside, and did the same at the bottom collar. And with that, the body is done, and I'm moving on to the next step, which will be the top part. I'm just going to put a grommet through here, actually right above the pocket, and then 180 degrees from there. Next step was to add some brass grommets. And they're just opposite each other. So here's where the pendant comes in. The little block will go inside the pocket, and the rest of it will hang with this shackle between these two. There we are. So the pendant is mounted, the block is inside the pocket, and the bottom part of this pendant is what the spinnaker will attach to. So that completes the top, I believe. We'll see how it goes. Now for the bottom. Okay, and for the bottom, here's a thin piece of nylon, something I didn't show before. I think this is going to be big enough. If not, I have more. So the idea is to kind of make a tunnel and then put the ring inside. First thing to do was to join the ends of this fabric so that it forms a tunnel to go around the ring. And now I'm going to kind of sew it, wrap it around a little bit. I've got that ring sewn into that fabric. It was a little tough, but in the end I used some staples here to hold the fabric till I could just kind of sew it like this. So just need to take out the staples. And next is to sew on 2 loops of webbing. This is what the line will be tied to pull it down. Okay, got those loops sewn on there. 2 sides. And the last thing to do for this bottom piece is to add another brass grommet, probably like halfway between these 2 loops, but only one. This will be used for the control line to bring the whole thing up, and having it there will allow me to kind of tie it around the metal part without putting any stress on the fabric. And there we go. Okay, so attaching this to the main body, the grommet will be placed right below the pocket, which is on the inside. And this is the reason I actually put this Dacron collar. This will kind of get sewed to here so that the seam is on the inside when I flip it out. And if I hadn't put a collar on here, I would have been sewing right through the pocket. So that was kind of the main reason for that. And now I've got that sewn. Looks okay. And just pull it through. And that's pretty much it. Let's load it up. Move it. And I got it all stuffed in there, as well as getting the control lines through the pocket. So it starts here. This control line is tied to the ring, goes up the pocket, around the block, back down through the pocket, and then comes to here. And it gets tied to this line, which is tied to the two webbing loops. Testing this vertically in a little bit of rain and wind. Oh yeah.